G'day. Welcome back to the Scale My Shopify Store podcast. Kath Langman here with you, your host on the show today. Welcome back if you are a long-time listener, and welcome to all our new listeners. Always great to have you here. Now, you may or may not be aware that on average, e-commerce websites convert at about 2 to 3%. So that means out of every 100 visitors to your website, only 2 to 3 of them are going to become buyers, which feels a little bit tough, doesn't it? You know, we work so hard to get all those visitors to your website, and then not very many of them buy. And then out of those that do visit your website, average revenue per website visitor is going to depend from brand to brand, very much like average order value is different from brand to brand and product to product. Now, lately, I've been auditing quite a number of e-commerce businesses who are desperately trying to grow their revenue and their profits. They're really wanting to make more money in their business and keep more money, hopefully, in their back pockets. But they not only don't know these metrics or any of the other performance metrics that drive growth, they also don't know how to improve them so that they can actually achieve their growth goals. Many times I'm hearing comments like, I feel like I've tried everything and it hasn't worked. Or maybe, you know, they have had some success with their efforts in the past, but it stopped working. And unfortunately, behind these statements is, you know, frequently someone who has chased shiny objects in a little bit of a misguided attempt to discover that, you know, that magic silver bullet that grants them overnight $1 million success, or someone who has implemented a whole bunch of tactics that has, you know, they've been recommended to them or that they've learned about, but they just haven't had any kind of overarching strategy to tie it all together. And in the end, they're just going about it the wrong way. And in the process, they end up giving their brains a whole lot of evidence that this just doesn't work. You know, our brains, our neural pathways, you know, they go for the path of least resistance, which is going to be, you know, what we have seen the most. So this is why in past episodes, I talk about things like really focusing on the wins and the progress first, because the more that we can train our brain to see that evidence, the more momentum and confidence that we'll gain. Ultimately, though, with your, you know, making more money, growing your revenue, and becoming more profitable in your business, you need a better strategy and a better process that is really tailored to your specific business. And when you have that in place, honestly, anything is possible. For example, what if there was a strategy that could 3x your average revenue per visitor and 4x your conversion rate? And what if it did that without paying, you know, you having to pay more money for ads? I'm pretty sure you'd want to know what it was, right? Well, guess what? That strategy actually exists, and implementing it has just helped one of our clients who has a children's brand to double their revenue from new customers in 30 days, and also led to an overall increase in revenue of over 180% compared to the same period last year, ultimately helping them become more profitable from their paid advertising in the process as well. And guess what? Even better, it was mostly automated. So let's dive in, shall we? Let's listen in to discover how to double the number of customers who buy from you on Autopilot. And don't miss the number one critical error that far too many e-commerce brands make all the time. I'm seeing it a lot, and it really prevents them from getting results like this. So I'm going to share that towards the end, because you do not want to be making this in your own business. If you are, you do want to be fixing it pronto. Trust me. All right, let's kick in. So let's start with a quick overview of some of the average e-commerce metrics across the board. You know, obviously, speaking in averages is just a benchmark. Your business will be different depending on your product category, price point, and all of that kind of stuff, and customer buying cycle. Average e-commerce conversion rate, like I mentioned, is 2 to 3%. Your average returning customer rate for e-commerce is about 25%. Your average bounce rate is about 38 to 40%. So bounce rate being people who visit and then leave straight away because for whatever reason, it just didn't, wasn't what they thought it was going to be. Average cart abandon rate is about 67 to 70%. And then, you'll have a few other averages that are very specific to your business. For example, your average order value, that will be, a little bit different. Actually discovered recently in Australia for e-commerce, the average e-commerce average order value is around $120 to $150. But of course, that's going to depend, like I said, on the price point of your products and, how many products in your range and all of that kind of stuff. Another metric that is worth you looking up is the time and speed to first purchase. So the average for e-commerce is around 2 weeks, that most people will have made their first purchase with you within 2 weeks. But again, that's something that will differ from, brand to brand and product to product. It's kind of logical. If something is a spontaneous purchase and not particularly expensive, then that's going to be a lot easier for a customer to just buy on the spot versus if you sell something that's really expensive. One of our clients sells furniture that costs a couple of grand. And of course, that's going to take a little bit of a longer consideration time to make a purchase decision. So the point here, though, is that it is better for you to work out what your averages are. It's better, as in more useful to you, to work out what your benchmark averages are. Because if you don't measure this stuff, you'll have no way of being able to grow, right? It's there's that saying, I forget who coined it in the first place, but what you measure or what you put your attention on grows, but what you measure and document grows exponentially. And, ultimately if you don't, first of all, you need to know that these are the metrics that have the most leverage for your growth, right? Every time you improve them, you are going to become you're going to grow, you'll grow your revenue. And if you measuring your profits as well, you'll be able to grow that. And, by measuring them over time, you will also start to see the evidence of the efforts that you put in, right? So once you know this time to first purchase and you know things like your revenue per visitor. So by revenue per visitor, I'm not talking about your average order value here. So for example, if there are 3 customers out of every 100 visitors who buy, work out how much they spent and then divide it by by 100 and you will get that revenue per visitor, right? And again, this is a good useful metric to know, because when you start spending money on advertising, or if you're already spending money on advertising, obviously it's going to cost you some money per visitor to get that traffic to your website. Not all of them will convert, so you need to be making improvements on that figure as well so that you can be profitable from your paid advertising. Hopefully also it's a logical assumption for you to understand that if you can speed up that time to first purchase, then that will also help you to become not necessarily more profitable on your paid ads overall long term, but you will be cash flow positive more quickly. The longer that you have to invest in advertising to get that first purchase from a customer, the harder it is to fund it, with your cash flow. Whereas if you can shorten that time to first purchase, then, and that, speed to first purchase is faster, then you don't have to spend as much money on ads in order to get that purchase, right? And so you're being cash flow positive more quickly is going to help you to scale and grow more quickly as well. So as an example, the kid brand that I referred to earlier, previously their revenue per visitor was about $3, and conversion rate wasn't fabulous on the website. And after 30 days after this strategy that we rolled out, they were able to improve that remarkably. So their revenue per visitor increased 3 times and their conversion rate increased by 4 times. But also on top of that, the speed to first purchase was shortened. So, being cash flow positive more quickly on that paid traffic was, achieved as well. So from memory, they went from about 2 weeks to first purchase to within a few days. So huge difference. And so how do we do this? And, ultimately what it requires is a really high quality list building and sales automation strategy. Most of you probably have something in place with this. Most of you probably have an email subscription form. Maybe you also have an SMS subscription form, but most of you will be making efforts some way, somehow to grow your list. And most of you probably have at least one email that is automated going out to those subscribers. So what I see the most would be, a discount to entice somebody to subscribe to your list, and then an email that goes to them automatically to give them that discount code. Most of you probably also have an abandoned cart email going out as well. That would kind of be the bare minimum that I would see across the board. I also see people who do have something more comprehensive. So please don't stop listening if you do, because 9 times out of 10, I am seeing huge areas of opportunity to improve what is already there. And look, at the end of the day, in my experience, there is always room for improvement with e-commerce business. And part of that is because the environment that we operate in is constantly changing, in terms of, what competitors are on the market, what consumer behavior is like. Then there's also the changes in technology and the tech tools and the way they work, and what we have available to us to use in our marketing, in our digital marketing. And, also over time, you should be learning from what is actually working in your business and what isn't, and refining what you have there. Like, we should never, ever implement something like an list building strategy and an email automation strategy and then just tick it off our list and never go back to it. But that's what I see a lot. And look, I get it. I'm not being critical here. If you're bootstrapping your business and you're, maybe one person, or you've got a really small team, it's really hard to find the time to get back and review this stuff and maybe change it up. So I totally get it, but this is your reminder and your wake-up call that there is room for improvement here. So if you're not getting the kind of statistics and results that I mentioned earlier, then, there is going to be room for you to improve. So yeah, and like I said, that the potential to improve that, the list building, the conversions when you have this solid welcome flow, but that it's even better if you can have that browse abandon and the cart abandon flows as well. So all of those flows, hopefully you understand this, all of those flows are targeted towards converting that first customer as quickly as possible, or the first purchase from a new customer, right? Obviously, you want to have other things in place to bring that customer back again. But in terms of increasing the number of new customers who buy from you and making more money from your traffic to your website, then these are the flows that you need to have in place and to be, really optimizing them to get the best results. So how, I want to talk you through, our approach to designing the best list building and flow content and structure for each brand, because, what works for one brand is not going to work for the next. Again, that should be a given, right? So when you go about, trying to grow your email list, you're going to be dangling some kind of a carrot. You're going to be offering some kind of an incentive, some kind of an ethical bribe to entice somebody to give you a bit of their personal details, such as name and email at the very least, hopefully SMS as well, mobile number rather. But, we've got to arrive at what is the right carrot to dangle. It has to be relevant to the customer and to what you sell. It has to be specific. It has to be, it has to be really something that your customers want and that's going to shift the needle for them. And you might follow, what you see everywhere else and just go, oh, I'll just do a discount because that's what everybody else does, so it must work. And, probably 9 times out of 10, it is going to work in terms of growing your list. But whether it is the best option, you will have no idea if you don't try anything else. And so, we do need to be split testing a few different sorts of incentives to find out, first of all, what's going to help you grow your list the best. And second of all, what's going to help you convert those subscribers into buyers the fastest and, spending the most money with you. So, really, doing some testing, coming up with some different ideas and getting some data and evidence that will help you make that decision is really crucial here. Secondly, though, also is the design of your form and the wording on it. Again, if you're just using something that is a template in your CRM, your email automation app, whether it's Klaviyo, whether it's something else, if you're just using a template and you're not a designer, you're not a writer, you're probably not going to have the best results. And there are some tricks, there are some tools that we use to really make that signing up to this list as enticing as possible. And when I say all of this, I'm not talking about, any kind of clickbait type strategy. I'm not talking about, anything that is nefarious whatsoever. Of course, we all want to have, we need to utilize ethical strategies here that are really authentic to you and your brand and that help you to cultivate a solid relationship with your customers. Otherwise, you're going to have a very short-term business. But equally, having the right incentives here and the right strategies in place to grow your list as quickly as possible, it is going to essentially help your potential customers to make a purchase decision faster, one way or the other. I don't think anyone actually enjoys sitting on the fence without making a decision. It's not actually very comfortable. So, we're just kind of helping our customers and our audience to make a good decision. So being able to split test a number of different incentives here is super important. And then, we can also then do a little bit of the same with where we, how we design the form and where we put it. So you might be deciding that you want to split test just email only or a 2-step, email plus SMS. You might test having some embedded forms on different landing pages. You might test, a few different things like that. Secondly, you can also test segmenting your list right from that list building stage. So an example might be one of our clients at the moment has a large range with some very distinct collections that lend themselves to buyers who are looking for something that, very different. So it might be for a gift, it might be for themselves, and there's a few other things. So we have 4 different options that people can choose. They have to select one when they sign up to the form. And when that goes into when that contact is in their list and they've subscribed, and they're saved in the database, that information goes in there too. And then you can start sending them, first of all, you can send them to the relevant product collection after they've finished subscribing. So, they press the submit button on the form, then the website page is going to refresh and it's going to take them directly to those products. So, helping a customer to find the products they're looking for as quickly as possible is going to help you decrease or speed up the time to first purchase. So if you do have a large range, then that can be super helpful. And also then down the track, in your automated flows or even your ongoing communications, you can also just send them relevant content and show them relevant products. And, there are ways to automate that and make it a dynamic kind of dynamic content in your communications so that you don't have to try and manually do this on an ongoing basis, because quite frankly, who has the time for that? So that, looking at the list building in that way, and then I'm going to dive in a little bit in a minute into how we also use paid traffic to help grow your list. But before we get to that, I just want to talk a little bit also about the flow, content, and structure, because I would say, again, you need to tailor this to your product and your brand and your customers and so on and so forth. Don't just send them the discount code. That's kind of like, I don't even know you yet. Like that, you have to include a little bit more information than that, and you're going to need to follow up multiple times. Actually, I don't have to hand with me, so I'm not going to remember the specific numbers here, but over decades, direct marketing experts have tracked and have evidence that the number of times that you follow up with a prospect increases your conversion rate remarkably. So if you're only sending one email or one SMS after somebody subscribes, you are leaving a huge amount of money on the table and missing out on a lot of opportunity to be able to grow your business further, grow your revenue further. So don't just send one message, but you also need to make sure that you are leading your potential customers through a bit of a purchase journey. And so the sort of content that goes into your emails and into the flow over, the entirety of the flow with multiple contact points, you want to follow there's a bit of a direct marketing, content formula. I'll kind of briefly go through it, but it used to be AIDA, but I've added an extra step in, which I'll explain. So attention, interest, desire, social proof, action is essentially the format that your content should flow in each email. And then, so, by attention, it can be the subject line. By the time you've written your subject line, you've basically spent 80 cents in the dollar. So without having a good subject line, you're going to really limit the open rate of your emails. And then, the interest. So being the next thing, like what's going to capture their interest and their attention there as well once they've opened the email. Most likely it's that hero image. Don't just launch straight into some text. Don't just whack your logo there. What's going to actually be of interest? Probably a great hero image, an attention grabbing headline, maybe, highlight the offer. There's, multiple different ways that you can do this, but, images are pretty powerful here. Desire being the next step, that's probably going to be the offer or the incentive. So make sure you give them that. It can also be, potentially just showcasing the products. Although I would say, you probably need to do more than just showcase the products. Social proof should be obvious. I see this is missed a lot, not having customer testimonials featured in your emails. And action, a call to action. How do people actually click and buy? You want to invite them through, make it easy for them. With emails, you have to do what I say is they need to pass the squint test. If most of us are actually looking at these and reading them on our phone, which is a pretty small screen, don't make people have to squint really, just to even see and figure out where they click to get the deal, right? But then across the flow, you don't just repeat the same stuff, right? So in that first email, this is probably the second impression that they have of you, or maybe the third. First impression might have been in an ad. Second impression might be the website. But so the third impression is going to be what they're seeing in this email. Introduce your brand, make them really excited. Like what are the benefits about your brand and your products that they want? So you kind of have to tell that story visually as well as in a few short words. Don't make the emails, full of long-winded text and big paragraphs of text, because that's too hard to read again on a mobile. But, you do need to tell that story. But then in the second email, you can't just include more of the same. There might be some facts and stats about your product category or the problem that your product solves. There might be, some pain points or perceived risks that you need to overcome. There might be some other myths that you need to bust. There's going to be a few, and again, this is going to be different per product, per brand, etc. Where, this is why personalization is so incredibly important. So, but again, follow that same kind of format when you are, writing and designing and laying this out. And then, in the final email, again, you can't repeat the same. What is a conversion tactic that you haven't used yet? Most likely it's going to be scarcity and FOMO. So, emphasizing that, but there might be something else as well. So, really making sure that, through each email and through the entirety of your flow, that you are taking that customer on that journey and ultimately encouraging them to make a decision one way or the other, hopefully in your favor. And then, similarly, with your other flows, you want to be personalizing and using that kind of content structure and messaging focus throughout your other flows as well. What about structure as well? So structure of flows is something that I see is not considered very often. And look, a lot of this is because people don't know really how to use a tech tool like Klaviyo, or what's possible, or, understand how kind of, the logic of what, the flow structure is, can help influence or relate to your conversions down, at the end of the day. So I understand why this isn't considered, but the structure of your flow can be quite influential to your improved results. So for example, if you are not dropping out buyers after each email and you continue to send emails to somebody who has purchased, encouraging them to purchase, that's going to come across a bit spammy, right? And your spam complaint rate will go up. Or, if you might take advantage of some of the segmentation capabilities so that you can showcase the right content to the people who are interested in that content, or the right products. So you can have different segments in the flow that is providing personalized, relevant content to those subscribers. Or you might segment out your flow to track where the traffic is coming from, so that you can decipher or have another layer of evidence, another layer of data that shows you where your most successful, most profitable traffic source is. It might or might not be meta ads. It might or might not be organic search, or so on and so forth, right? And there's a variety of other things that we can do to personalize the structure of your flow, even personalizing the trigger. I mean, if you are a brand that sells direct to consumers as well as wholesale, then most likely you're going to want to exclude some people from receiving this content. So lots of different ways that you can personalize and tailor the structure of your flow that's going to help you to get better results. Now, I really want to talk as well about how to incorporate this kind of list building strategy with your paid traffic, particularly paid traffic on the Meta platforms. And I'm saying that specifically because, well, actually you could include TikTok here as well, potentially, but those social media platforms are the ones that are more geared towards increasing visibility of your brand and, customers actually discovering your brand and your business, versus a more search-driven platform like Google Ads or Google Search or even Pinterest. Usually that first discovery of your brand has happened before somebody's searching, right? So this is why when I see businesses that, if they're doing only paid Google ads but no other advertising, usually their ability to spend money on those ads is limited, because there's just not enough awareness or visibility. So, not enough people even know that business might exist, right? So the brand discovery is often going to happen on one of those social channels, but we want to be able to get them to our website and purchasing at a profit, right? I mean, that goes without saying. It's pretty hard for any small business to grow and scale and stay in business and make a profit if your paid traffic is not converting at a profitable rate. So what I really like to be able to do with that kind of paid ads and a business that we might work with is to arrive at having an ad funnel that is what we would call a business as usual funnel. And when I say that, I don't mean that the audiences or the actual ad creatives necessarily don't ever get changed. Usually there will be fatigue with creative and audiences, and we need to be constantly coming up with new ad creatives and researching audiences and finding ways to optimize ads so that they don't fatigue. But a business as usual funnel is one where you are always getting, the traffic and sales through. And then you might, on top of that, you might layer, product launches or, clearance sales or Black Friday promotions or whatever. That's kind of on top of that. If you're only ever relying on those sale promotions, again, you're just going to really struggle to grow, and certainly you'll struggle to grow profitably. So we want to have this kind of business as usual funnel, which is designed to target your cold audiences. It's designed to win, new customers to your brand. Well, first of all, to introduce them to your brand, but then, win them over as customers, right? And to that extent, there needs to be some congruence between those ads and this list building and welcome flow that is designed to get the first order. And so you can do that for sure. You can do that by sending that ad traffic to your homepage and relying on that pop-up opt-in form to build your list and do all of the work of converting customers. However, if you actually also incorporate some other landing pages that are potentially more specific to or more congruent with the ads that you're running, and this will be very much the case for a brand that has a large range. But even, we even do this with brands that have a single product. So one of our clients has it's a baby product, single product brand. And obviously, if you have a single product, well, in this case, maybe it's not obvious. In this case, it's a product that you only buy once. So you have to be really profitable off that first order. So you have to be really good at running ads in that case. But, even though there's only one product and you only typically buy it once, there are a few different reasons why people buy. And so in that case, we've got a couple of different landing pages. So some of the ads that are very specific to one reason for purchase go to that landing page. And then, there's the form to opt in from there. And, then we go into the flow. So, with your ads, you can test out these things. You can test out, it can help you test out which incentive is going to convert the best. It can help you test, what kind of landing page content and structure is going to help convert the best. Not just to list building, you want to increase the number of people subscribing, but also, of course, you want to get those purchases as quickly as possible. So this is how I like to incorporate those paid ads. And what I'm finding now is that by doing it this way, we're able to get a really healthy return on ad spend from the ad, as reported in the ads dashboard. So that, again, enables us to scale a lot more quickly because the brand becomes cash flow positive. But then the final step to really making sure that you implement this strategy to the highest quality possible is implementing a tracking and monitoring process. It's all well and good to get this thing up and running and tick it off your list, but if you don't go back on a regular basis and actually track the metrics on each stage of this funnel, you'll have, first of all, you'll have no idea how successful it is for you. But second of all, you're not going to observe or identify any further opportunities to improve. So, having that regular check-in point with tracking and monitoring is crucial. You know, are there ways to improve the submit rate on your opt-in forms? You know, it could be changing the image, it could be changing the headline, it could be changing the words on the button, it could be, you know, adding something else or taking something away. It could be tweaking some subject lines. It could be tweaking, you know, some other design or content that's included in the emails to help the conversion rate. You know, so like with the emails themselves, we want to be tracking open rates, click-through rates, and then, you know, the purchase conversion rate and how much revenue that you're making, right? So without tracking and having this process of tracking and monitoring, like, we just miss out on so much opportunity to improve and to make more money and more profits. Now, I want to highlight here that to do this in an e-commerce business, you do need to have the right tool for the job. You know, I read a lot of people, they might post in Facebook groups, or, you know, usually they don't comment this to me, but occasionally they do. And, you know, they're trying to avoid spending any money, or they're trying to use the absolute cheapest tools on the market. And I get that, you know, it comes from a good intention to conserve cash flow. But if you are spending money on the wrong tools that can't get you good results because the tools don't have the capability to do that, then you will only reduce your results. You know, that will be a handbrake on your business growth, without doubt. And I do see this a lot. A few times over the last 18 months, we've helped migrate some clients from, you know, a couple of other tools. I'm not going to mention them, but, you know, definitely more common and commonly used because they're cheap, to Klaviyo, which has, you know, this incredibly powerful data and AI driven engine behind it. And not only does their list grow faster, but they increase their sales more quickly as well. And it's on, you know, they're able to automate a lot of it. You know, you're never automating 100% of this kind of a business, but, you know, it is possible to automate a lot of it from a tool like Klaviyo. And, you know, I think the thing to bear in mind is that Klaviyo is a tool that is purpose-built for e-commerce. A lot of other tools, they're trying to be all things to all types of business model, and therefore they're just not great at any of it. So definitely need to have the right tools for the job. Now, you might be wondering, what on earth is the biggest mistake with sales automation? And because I did hint at this at the start. And so the biggest mistake that e-commerce business owners make when they're trying to use tools like Klaviyo, and they're trying to, you know, grow their list and automate their sales, is only using the templates in the tool. So Klaviyo has a whole lot of templates for opt-in forms, and it has the templated flows. It's like a plug and play type thing where you add that flow, and, you know, if you've you know, uploaded your logo and your colors, etc., then at least it might look a tiny bit like your brand. But they're actually, you know, they haven't actually tailored any of that strategy to their own business. They haven't changed any of the words. They haven't changed the layout of the emails. They haven't personalized, you know, the incentive or the content in any way, shape, or form to the brand or to the customer's buying cycle. And so without personalizing, you just won't get great results. So, you know, at the end of the day, if you know that you've done that, you know, look, 9 times out of 10, I think people make that mistake because of one of two reasons. Either they just are ignorant, they don't know any better, and they think, oh, well, this is you know, it's a pretty complex tool to learn, so I'm just going to take that path of least resistance and trust that, you know, whatever those templates are is best practice, so to speak, and they just go with that. Or secondly, you know, and this happens a fair bit as well, people, they just need to get something up and they're really, really busy. They don't have a lot of time. So they put something up and then just tick it off their list and move on. But, you know, again, without having that kind of personalized strategy and really tailoring the content in each email and throughout the story arc of the entire flow, you really will be missing out on a huge amount of potential. So I hope, hopefully you really like the idea of this strategy. Hopefully you can see and understand now how impactful it can be, and understand how really designing and implementing a high quality strategy like this to build your database and to automate your sales can really help you to increase that conversion rate, to increase your revenue per visitor, to increase your profits from paid traffic. So yeah, hopefully you're really motivated to have a look at this in your own business. If you do want to put a rocket under your e-commerce growth this year, and in particular with your paid traffic and your sales automation, then please feel free to book a free strategy session with us. You can do that by heading to productpreneurmarketing.com/let's-talk. And we will include a link to that on the podcast show notes for this episode. That is what I have for you today. I hope you've really enjoyed this episode, and I look forward to being with you on the show again next week. Bye for now.